MKO Abiola, the making of June 12 as Nigeria's Democracy Day. The June 12, 1993 presidential election is widely regarded as the freest and fairest in Nigeria's history. Yet, the winner was denied the opportunity to rule. After 8 years of military rule under General Ibrahim Babangida, the regime promised a transition to civilian rule, establishing two political parties, the Social Democratic Party, SDP, and the National Republican Convention, NRC. Elections were subsequently conducted at various levels of government, culminating in the highly anticipated presidential pool. The SDP nominated Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola, popularly known as MKO Abiola, as its presidential candidate, while the NRC chose Alhaji Bassirou Tofa. Following vigorous campaigns, Nigerians headed to the polls on June 12, 1993. The election, organized by the National Electoral Commission (NEC) under Professor Humphrey Nwosu, saw millions of Nigerians turn out to cast their ballots. Now you know why Nwosu dominated headlines recently after his death. By June 14, results from across the country began to emerge, indicating a clear lead for MKO Abiola. However, on June 16, Professor Nwosu was summoned by the National Defense and Security Council, headed by General Babangida and General Sani Abacha. At that point, Taraba State was the only state whose result had not yet been announced. This appears to be a meeting that led one of the ugliest decisions in Nigeria's democratic history. According to a later interview before his demise, Nwosu revealed he was told to address national security concerns related to the election, despite initially acknowledging that the election had been free and fair. Babangida annulled the results, citing threats to national security.
It is true that the presidential election was generally seen to be free, fair, and peaceful. However, there was in fact a huge array of electoral practices virtually in all the states of the Federation before the actual voting began.
But this didn't go well with the Nigerian majority. It was a decision that didn't trigger just widespread outrage like you may have now on today's social media, but nationwide protests. Facing intense pressure, the man fondly called IBB stepped down on August 27, 1993, handing over to an interim government led by Chief Ernest Shonekan, who, like Abiola, hailed from Ogun State. Shonekan's government lasted only 3 months before it was hoisted in a coup led by General Sani Abacha. Remember, Abacha was under IBB, yes. On June 11, 1994, after prolonged silence from the government, MKO Abiola declared himself the rightful president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces. In his declaration, he accused the military of usurping the people's mandate. Days later, on June 23, 1994, he was arrested and charged with treason. During his imprisonment, MKO's health deteriorated significantly, and Archbishop Desmond Tutu of South Africa, who visited him in prison, raised serious concerns about his condition. Report says Abiola had written several letters to Abacha appealing for a resolution to the June 12 election crisis and requesting proper medical attention due to his worsening health. In an effort to convince him to renounce his presidential mandate, the then UN Secretary General Kofi Annan and Emeka Ayaku, then Commonwealth Secretary General, were sent to negotiate with a man whose election is now synonymous with the celebration of democracy in Nigeria. According to a 1998 report by Tel magazine, Abiola refused to give up his mandate. Protests erupted across the country demanding his release, but the military head of state at the time reportedly vowed that Abiola would never rule Nigeria. According to him, it would only happen over his dead body. Ironically, General Sani Abacha died on June 8, 1998. But still, Abiola did not rule. Shortly after Abacha's death, there was a renewed hope that Abiola would be released, especially with General Abdulsalami Abubakar now in power. Tragically, those hopes were dashed with the death of Abiola in custody on July 7, 1998. Let's dig a little into the life of MKO Abiola. Many people know him as Nigeria's president that never ruled. But there is more. Born August 24, 1937, the man now regarded as Nigeria's democracy hero, hailed from Abeokuta in the Egba district of present-day Ogun State. As a boy, Abiola fought his way through life, working hard to support himself through school, a brilliant student. He earned a scholarship from the Western region of Nigeria, which enabled him to further his education at the University of Glasgow, where he studied accountancy. Upon his return to Nigeria, Abiola joined the Multinational Corporation International Telephone and Telegraph (ITT) in 1969. He rose through the ranks and eventually retired in 1988 as the chairman and chief executive officer of ITT Nigeria, a Nigerian billionaire, businessman, publisher, philanthropist, who many still sing of his praises, and politician, a prominent figure in Nigeria's pro-democracy movement. Abiola was widely regarded as the presumed winner of the annulled June 12, 1993 presidential election. In recognition of this iconic statesman, MKO Abiola, former President Muhammadu Buhari declared June 12 as Nigeria's New Democracy Day on the 6th of June 2018, honoring his legacy and contribution to the nation's democracy journey. In celebration of Nigeria's Democracy Day today, this is our reflection on the making of the famous June 12.